Good morning, students. Students, in the previous class, yesterday, we learned from Galileo that if a body is in motion, it tends to oppose any change in its state of motion. That means, if a body is traveling with a certain motion, that means uniform motion, it will continue to move with that particular speed in a straight line unless compelled by any external act or any force. So, based on these findings and suggestions and arguments of Galileo, the Newton further developed these findings into his famous Newton's first law of motion. So, students, this law states that a body continues to be in the state of rest or uniform motion in a straight line unless acted upon by an external unbalanced force. And even this law is also known as the law of inertia. So students, with the help of this example, let's understand what actually the Newton's first law of motion is. So initially, this football is at rest and it will remain at rest unless and until compelled or acted upon by an unbalanced force or the foot of this player. Okay, when this player will hit this ball, it will comes in motion. That means an an object like this football is in motion will continue with the constant speed and direction. That means it will keep on continuing with constant speed and direction until and unless again acted upon by an unbalanced force. That means first of all, the state of rest of this football is changed into a state of motion by the action of an unbalanced force by the foot of this player. Then after that, the state of motion of this object of the football is changed into the state of rest with the help of an unbalanced force by the net which is being applying an unbalanced force to this football. So in this way, students, now break this Newton's first law of motion into two parts. Let us understand the first case when the body is at rest. So students, every body continues in its state of rest unless compelled by some external force to change the state of rest. So students, as your exams are going to begin very soon from Saturday, so you can get some inspiration from this young and very sincere student who, because of which everything in the room has get on energized, and even he is indicating a victory sign to all of you to motivate you, to inspire you that his preparation has been totally completed because of his dedication and his arrangement of a proper study room and a proper environment for studies. So students, this table is has a book and some is a apple, scale and pen, and even a bag is being hanging from this table. Initially everything in this room, the room of this child, was at rest. Okay, so when this energetic and enthusiastic student and a very energetic student came in the room, everything got energized. That means he changed the state of rest of this book. This apple was at the below of this table. Now he's kept it up the top, so his state of rest also has changed. Similarly, the bag was hanging initially. Now it's at the floor. So in this way, the whole atmosphere of the room and every object of this room has changed its position because of an action and a force which was applied by this very sincere and intellectual and a very anxious students of this of your school. So in this way, students, you can see the books, apples, pencils, bag are in the state of rest unless picked or arranged by applying force on them. So this child has applied a force on the book, so book has come on the top, the apple has changed its position, the pencils are in the pencil box, and the bag is now on the floor. So the state of rest, all these things have been changed when it was picked and arranged by applying force by this young child on them by this smart youngster student. Okay students, so this is a victory sign for all of you. So all are going to win and succeed in the exam. You're going to score full marks. I believe that because your preparation is going to be very good as you are very attentive in the class. So you should have inspiration from this student, this young student of your class. Thank you, students. So now students, If we further break the Newton's law of motion in the other way, based on the state of uniform motion, so every body, like this stubborn man riding a bike, this man is riding a bike and he's very stubborn and a stout man. He continues in the state of uniform motion. He's driving at a very fast speed. He's continuously in a state of motion, but because of his defected eyesight and his lack of concentration, what happened? The state of uniform motion was changed to the state of rest, and he was thrown out of this bike because of a strike or a collision with the wall. So students, whenever an external force is being applied on a ball, the state of motion of any object, any body changes. So initially this person was riding a bike and moving towards the road. Suddenly a wall came in front of him, and the wall applied a reaction force or an unbalanced force on this bike, because of which this man fell down from the bike and the bike came to rest. Okay students, so in this way we can read once again: everybody, like the stubborn man riding a bike, continues in its state of uniform motion in a straight line unless compelled by some external force like reaction force by wall to change that state. Okay, even as I told you, the Newton's first law of motion is the law of inertia also. So what does inertia say is that the tendency of a body to remain in the state of motion or rest. So students, this young man, the stubborn man, was on a bike and riding on a bike, and he was in motion initially, but suddenly he's collided with a wall, but his state of he was in the state of motion and he was trying to resist that state of motion. इस वजह से, that is why this man fell down from the bike, because initially he was at the state of in the state of motion, and he opposed or resisted that change of state of motion. That is why this young man fell from the bike. Let me explain once again students. Because ये व्यक्ति जो है बाइक में, stubborn man, ये चल रहा था बाइक से, and he was in motion. And whenever जब दीवार से, wall से the bike strike हुई, when the bike struck from the wall, collided with the wall, the man was initially at motion, but suddenly the whole bike came in rest, but he was initially in the motion because he was sharing the motion with the bike, and because of which he fell down from the bike. Similarly students, you can see this example in which they are pushing a rock. Okay, initially the rock was at rest, the both are pushing from both the sides, and there is an unbalance there is a balance force acting on this rock, because of which the rock is not moving. When the both apply the force in one direction, the object or this block started moving, its speed and direction immediately change, and it start moving in this direction. And this is the same example I gave you earlier of the football. Initially the football is at rest. Now when an unbalanced force act on it, it came in motion, and immediately it will remain in the state of motion until and unless it is acted by a unbalanced force. When the football was hit in the net came this ball, make this ball in rest because of an unbalanced force provided by the net. So students, in this way, surely you are going to win in the exam. So prepare well. So thank you students. So in this way, this was the explanation of Newton's first law of motion. In the next video, in the next class, I am going to explain you about the law of inertia, based on the questions and the reasoning questions on inertia, which are totally also based on the Newton's first law of motion, because it is also named as the law of inertia. Thank you students. Thank you very much.